Yeah, thanks everybody for coming. This is our second episode of Bold Ideas. So welcome. I'm Jim Egan, head of school at Synapse School. There are a lot of new faces that I've already met. This is my 13th year as head of school. I just love it. It's a fantastic place. And I was telling people really the impetus for these types of events and evenings comes out of the school's just love of big ideas and bold ideas. I mean, Synapse was one of those, and I think it's a community of ideas. And we want kids and adults to understand we take those ideas seriously and we're really inspired by them. So we have tonight someone who is all about those types of things. So I want to welcome Jay Parikh. Welcome.
Thank you.
Clap. And before we get going, Jay, I've known you, I was talking to Divya, what is it? 12 years?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I think it's
Right.
12.
Yeah. And we'll get going in a second, but I have the official bio because this is a very impressive guy here. So let me tell you about him. So Jay is a seasoned executive board member, advisor to some of the world's fastest growing and most successful consumer developer and enterprise technology companies. In October, is that correct? 2024. You joined Microsoft's senior leadership team as Executive Vice President of Core AI, bringing deep expertise in engineering, in product, in business, and strategy to advance Core AI's mission, empower every developer to shape the future with AI. So your role is pivotal in keeping Microsoft at the forefront of AI, not just through technology, but by fostering a strong culture, developing world-class talent, and accelerating business growth to deliver greater value to customers. Jay's diverse background blends technical leadership with team building. Remember we had burritos years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you told me some funny
A
stories.
I
Yeah,
have more funny stories.
yeah, about scaling, team building, and it gives you a unique approach to some of the world's most iconic companies. And as vice president and global head of engineering and infrastructure at Facebook from 2009 to 2021, Jay led global teams that designed, developed, and operated the infrastructure powering Facebook's products, supporting its growth from 300 million to over 3 billion users. Most recently, Jay was CEO of a cloud security company, and Jay's extensive experience across the startup and VC ecosystems, along with leadership roles at, I'm going to pronounce this probably wrong, Akamai, and Ning, brings an invaluable perspective to Microsoft. Known for his inventive spirit, Jay holds over 20 US patents as well. And the most important thing is that you are a Synapse parent.
I am.
Yes.
I am. I forgot to put that in there.
Yes, as is your wife Divya. She's here too.
she's
Jay and Divya have two kids. One, Isla, is a junior
In high school,
at Castellea High School. And your youngest one, this is it. This is the final year for Tejas.
Yeah, final year.
He's in 8th grade. And so, Jay, you've been instrumental to the school's success, taking a flyer on us all those years ago. We're a very different school now.
Yeah, very different, but Jim and team here are exquisite, right, in terms of the environment that they've created. And
thank you.
This collection of ideas, this iteration, getting it better and better, and just bigger ambitions.
Yeah, well,
it's great.
thank you. Yeah. So another round of applause. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you.
All right. So we have some questions, some of which came from the RSVP forms that we sent out, and then I have some of my own as well. And
Spicy ones.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes, Jay. If you ask my leadership team, you just don't know.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
in meetings, they can go any which way.
That doesn't surprise me.
It's more fun. All right, so if you didn't know, Jay, we're in a very big time in history with AI. Did you know that?
I heard about it yesterday.
Did you hear about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted you to know.
Yeah,
Some
thank you.
people are calling
Thank
it
you.
a big deal.
Big deal.
And so, certainly from a perspective, we're most of us are parents in this room, or educators, or maybe even in school. So that's really sort of the angle we want tonight to sort of focus on. If you think about kids growing up in this AI immersive environment, right? AI tutors, co-pilots, agents, what human capacities become more important, in your opinion? Not less, but more important.
It's I think there's one, I would say the world and the state of AI is something that we all know if you're in the space, that it's changing really quickly, right? And you hear about it. We live in the valley. AI, it's everywhere. It's going really fast. So that's all fine and dandy. We all hear that. We get it. I'd say there's a few things to kind of cover in answering that question, which is like one, that I think it's more important than ever before to be like insanely curious, right? Because and like we talk about curiosity and these things, but the rate that you can like learn things, explore things, experiment with things is at like just an unprecedented level. And there's like way of background a little bit. And those of you who work in tech, this is all obvious to folks, and maybe it's all obvious to everybody. But one of the things that's like fascinating, there's this book that has like come back into fashion about technological revolutions, and the author of the book, a researcher, a consultant, and a lecturer on this topic. One of the things that's like fascinating about where we are with AI is it's actually not breakthrough anymore. Like I think we always talk about it as breakthrough. It's actually, there are definitely breakthrough things that are still, we haven't heard about, that are going to happen, discoveries with maybe medicine or healthcare or materials or climate or whatnot. But right now we're in this like moving into this vast deployment phase, right? And the thing that's like driving this is like multiple compounding engines. Like you look at the capital that's being deployed in data centers and servers and GPUs and like people. There's like geopolitical forces that are driving these, like another compounding engine. There's like what's happening in organizations, the enterprises, the diffusion of this technology in these organizations. So one is, I would say, being really curious, right? It's like what I tell our team. If you're not like using this stuff all the time, if you're not super curious with this stuff, you probably shouldn't be on our team, right? And it's not that we have all the answers, and but to tell me, hey, I tried it, it didn't work, that's not going to work anymore. So that's like one, be persistent, be curious, right? The second thing is, I think what in some ways the opportunity now is, we were, and I'm curious to actually get your opinion on this, which is like, as we kind of all grew up, society has trained most individuals to like get good at something, like to specialize in something, right? And there's some more books that are now coming out, or like people are reading again about this topic. There's research out there, the generalist versus specialist kind of like argument. But being able to go and like take and use AI to connect more dots, I find that to be super amazing, right? Like you couldn't do that when we went to school when we were growing up. It was hard. It's like, hey, Mom, can you schlep me to the library? Let me like. Yeah.
Are you making the argument then that there maybe the generalist is?
I think it is. I don't know that I'm making an argument necessarily. I do think that the world can like reach new levels of like creativity, invention, with people who can connect more dots. And the dots now all got closer together,
right?
Because of this technology, right?
Right.
Like I can just be like, hey, I want to learn about, what makes a plant grow.
Right.
Like, hopefully we all know that, and we learned that in school. But
we teach that here.
Yeah,
I think. I hope.
But I can just like use an AI to be like, hey, and the thing that's not just ask it a question and get an answer, because I can search Google and get an answer for that too, right? But hey, this is the way I learn. I'm an audio learner. I have to hear it, right? So go research this topic, create me a podcast, break it into these sections, quiz me at the end, and I can do that. And I can build that customized plan for myself I'm a visual learner. I'm this. I want, to read it. Hey, I'm curious now about the plant, so does something have to do with the soil? Like, teach me about chemistry in the soil, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to go deep, being able to connect more dots, I think is the opportunity. So I'm curious to get kind of like how you think about this as an educator. Does that make sense? Do you think about
I
this?
tend to agree. I've even before AI, I have thought like the idea of the amateur. I'm thinking about like in the classic sense, right? Like, oh, you're an amateur, but actually, like, we're all amateurs in all kinds of things. I'm an amateur grilled cheese maker and an amateur washing machine fixer, right? Like, it's what's wrong with that, by the way?
Nothing.
And we all are. And I think this is going to allow people. It's allowing me to be like way better at all those things too, right? Like I had a water heater issue. Like, I fixed it because I just was able to talk with an AI and figure it out. Like, I didn't call the plumber.
Yeah.
Right. And or whoever I was supposed to call to fix the thing. I don't know, is a plumber even fix that thing? I don't even know. I didn't call. I was like literally talking, and my neighbor came out and was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm fixing my water heater." Like, I don't fix water heaters. Like, and so I do wonder, is a technology going to make? Because back to, if you're curious, if you know how to ask the right questions and how to connect the dots. I don't know. I don't know if Synapse ever focused on or bought entirely into like the hyper specialization thing.
No, I don't think you do.
Yeah,
that was a kind of a layup.
Yeah. So we never really thought that was
because of the interconnected kind of project.
Yeah,
learning,
and also just outside of the technology, the world is a wicked environment. It's it's not it's not a swimming pool. I think of like Michael Phelps versus I don't know, soccer player or something, right? Like it's a very different. Or Tiger Woods. Well, he was an expert. He was focused. Yeah, it was very linear. He was swinging thousands of times an hour, but he put life is really a football field. It's very dynamic, right?
Yeah, every day.
Yeah. So that's my take. All right. Another question. So schools, I would say, some schools are struggling to answer a basic question. What is school for in an AI-rich world? I would say more like high schools and beyond. I was saying earlier, I think elementary schools are going to more or less stay the same. Mm-hmm. I think teaching about human connection and making friends and your emotional landscape. I think most elementary schools aren't going to they shouldn't radically shift. But so think of it more of 7th grade and up. So from your vantage point, what shouldn't schools outsource to AI no matter how good it gets? Should not. Yeah. I think some things it should. I think this could be an unlock for assessment. Right now, assessment is an event. And you probably, all of you remember like taking in a test or finals week or the SAT. That's a bad way to assess learning. So it could be amazing.
Yeah.
AI can be amazing for that. But what are things that AI shouldn't be doing?
And I think times are changing. So I think maybe a year from now, our answers might be different.
Right.
I don't know. There's a few things here. One is I don't think the relationship with the teacher and the student should be outsourced to the AI. And maybe that's obvious.
I don't know if it's. I mean, there's schools that are doing this.
Yeah, that's
right?
right. But I don't think that that's the thing to let go of right now. I do think that, our kids are, still human beings, and that human to human, that adult, that teacher to, child to student relationship, I think, is I think about like some of my teachers, and I think about some of our kids' relationships with their teachers. And these are relationships they're going to take with and keep with the rest of their lives, right? I think that's like super important not to outsource that. I don't think the teachers should like let that happen, right? There's a role. What they teach, how they interact, I think may evolve. But that person who gets them as a human person, and can like sit down and talk to them and see them, happy or sad or crying about something. We don't have the AI yet to do that.
You said yet.
Yet. I don't, yeah,
You
it's
know what I
hard to
mean?
predict.
It's
It's
hard.
really hard to predict, right?
Yeah.
There's definitely research out there and things out there where, psychology and other things where there's AIs that can do it better than humans.
Yeah.
So who knows if that's, but I think that human-to-human relationship is still very important, and I don't think we should do that. I think listen, and this is maybe veering into a little bit of the dangers here. I think that educators need to they need to protect and teach and help our kids, and we need to do that as parents too, how to discern sort of good and bad. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I think that we have yet, in my opinion, to see all the not great things that can happen with AI in the world, from security to misinformation, disinformation, to lots of stuff that happens at scale, right? And you can take these to these logical kind of conclusions of what AIs can do in the world. And you can have your opinions on media, on social media, on politics, et cetera. And you can take, AI to each one of those and take them to some very logical, what sounded like extremes, but they're not extremes, right, anymore. And so the institutions, I think, have to find a way to help, and we all have to help, and we all have to figure this out. I'm not even sure adults can figure this out, right? What's in the limit here? How do you find? And I'm a little bit abstract here, but how do you know what's true?
Right. I mean, I wonder if
besides the basic 2 + 2
Yeah.
is 4. I know, we can prove that.
I wonder if kids growing up native to it will have an advantage. I think of
yeah,
family members, older family members of mine that are just locked in
With
on
whatever they read. or
whatever.
see.
Did you see this?
Yep.
Oh my God!
Yep.
They're like,
Yep.
just boom, they're in the metaverse. Man.
Yeah.
They're gone, right? Dinner time, just, and they're like 80, right? And
Yeah.
whereas the kids at the table are like,
Whatever. Don't
grandma's
believe that.
out of it.
Yeah.
Don't trust her. She can't tell.
But they grow up too, the kids, right? And there are things where, as a younger person, you can be like, yeah, that's just noise, whatever. But as you mature, you get older, you get involved and more in tune with religion, politics, other things, where there is maybe not a clear, fact. How do you still know how to comb through the communication that is artificially generated versus what's human generated, right? And we know that these AIs can really be personal. They can be very, very authentic. They can do things in staged ways, right? Where we have some research where it shows we all know what deepfakes are, right? And there's the simple kind of deepfake thing, but we have some research that shows this progressive sequence of things that bend a person's understanding of something over through a calculated set of sequences that the AI figures out. So it'll show you one video, it'll see how you react to that thing, it then doctors and shows you another video, sees how you react to that thing. So it's kind of choose your own adventure, except it's choosing it for you, right? And it's not just show you one deep fake thing and you're like, oh yeah, that's a deep fake. It's taking you through this journey, right? And that's possible today, right?
This is not making me very optimistic.
This is not sci-fi, right, folks? I kind of said not to be. This was not the optimistic side. But you asked me the question of what should the educators not let go of, and I don't know that this is a let go of. I'm just how do you and the team here be prepared to help?
Yeah, right. I've heard other people who have are deep in this, professionally, and they say common sense is going to become really important discernment. I think you used that. Like the basic things that you should be focusing on,
You've
Jim.
been
Like
saying
teaching.
that for a long time.
Yeah, maybe it's not new. I don't know. But no one has ever told me that prior to AI. Like, you got to teach common sense to the kids. But I have heard that.
Yeah, I think it's a much more nuanced than
Probably.
teaching them common sense, right?
Yeah.
I generally think.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know how to. I don't have an answer to that. I just
Right.
think you asked a question. This is a little bit more abstract. Is like this is a thing that I think there's a teacher important part of like navigating this
Right.
twists and turns of
Right.
of this
As
right?
it grows. I mean, you were at Facebook, right? As you were sort of scaling social media. Are there things?
Everything went great. It was all fine.
It was
all the
perfect,
time.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I got scolded today by my family for not being on Instagram more. Can you believe that? And they did not buy any of my arguments about like attention span. Like, I'm just trying to like focus on work for the kids. I got, all three, 2 kids, wife, like get on the social media, get on the program. I was like, should I start smoking too? Like, what is, like what is?
Not a good look.
Anyway, I told you this can go lots of directions, Jay. But you've been in that world too. Are there things that educators or parents can take away from what we've learned about social media as we look at AI, or are they two different, distinct technologies?
Yeah, I think they're very distinct and different. There are some parallels, right? Because obviously now, I would say because we're building AI in a world where generally social media and the internet and in some ways the world is more interconnected than it's ever been. It may, depending on your different takes of life, it may have other problems, but it is, news can travel much faster than it used to when we were growing up, right? So we're building AI in a world where social media is prevalent, right? So you can't compare these two because in some ways there's an interplay between the two. And that's where I think, because there is widespread, people on Instagram or, Facebook or whatever is out there, we do have to think about all the good things that can happen because of this, and great things, right? Like great social causes, lots of like repetitive work that can be done in an automated way where then it frees up humans to focus more on creativity, right? And we can talk more about this later, but like to me, we have this mission in our team, which is to help every developer shape the future with AI. But more and more, I think that word developer is kind of disappearing, right? And like, I think of it more as like builder, and now I think of it as like everyone, right? And I meet tons of people, and I met some people here today that are like, hey, I'm not technical, I'm like, don't know how to do this thing. I'm like, that's okay, you just have to try it, and you'll be amazed at what you can actually do. You'll feel superhuman, right? And just do it every day. Use it a little bit. Try something, You'll be disappointed some days. Sometimes it won't listen to you, just like your kids don't. But like treat it like unassuming, naive, unstructured, not self-directed intern. And if you talk to it that way, it's going to amaze you, right? You give it just strict guidelines, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I think, what was the question? Sorry. I lost the thought there.
Social media, can you learn?
Yeah, social media. So the social media, I think, is like, there's all the good that can happen, but on the other side of it is like, with this disinformation, misinformation, with these, in some ways, like, I read a lot of sci-fi. So I think, what are these AIs out there like competing with each other to like, create the truth, and they can all go so fast right now.
Yeah.
So you think about the stuff that's happened in the past in social media and what we've all like had to learn about and get educated about in terms of misinformation, disinformation, et cetera. And now you take that to like many orders of magnitude more velocity and material and complexity. and it can change constantly. These things can adapt. So again, I'm like, okay, well, how do you prepare for that? And that makes the social media stuff in the world look like a cute puppy dog in the corner to me, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, interesting. Yeah, one of the positives of social media.
Let's try to get back positive.
Yeah. Well, my kids, the reason they wanted me on Instagram is they all sent me story. It was my birthday yesterday. And
Happy birthday.
Yeah, thanks.
Should we
And
sing?
I was like, none of my family actually said anything to me. I was depressed. They all made individual
That's 'cause they were
stories
on
on Instagram,
and you weren't there,
and I wasn't there.
and it was your fault.
And it was my fault. And then so I was getting blamed for
On your birthday.
on my birthday
Tough
for not
crowd.
being on
Tough
Instagram.
crowd.
Instead, I was like, I'm actually working. Anyway, yeah, that makes sense though. Like, so it is a new. So it's very new then. I mean, what we're gonna be all experiencing. And so, what can a parent do? What's one thing they can do right now with the current state of AI?
Use it more.
Use it more.
Yeah.
I tell that to the teachers. Some of them are probably here. I say just
Yeah.
use it more.
Yeah, use it more. One of the things that I do and we talk about in our team is, and when I meet with, I met with I think like 300 customers last year in my job, right? So almost one a day, and inevitably, probably 70-80% of those conversations ended in something about how hard it is to change the culture of an organization, small, medium, big, right? Governments, public, private, everything. And we inevitably got into team and people and culture and incentives. And I always would leave the conversation and they would always ask for advice. I'm like, listen, I don't give advice. But one of the things that I think we all have to do is raise our level of ambition, because these systems, not just the models themselves, but kind of everything around it, people building startups on this, what these things can do is we don't understand how capable these things are, right? So think about this as just this massive amount of potential intelligence that's sitting in these systems, these models. Think potential energy, potential intelligence, and we have just tapped into a tiny little drop of value of these things, right? So we have to use this stuff more. If you think you're doing something ambitious with AI, as a teacher, as a parent, as an engineer, as a product manager, as a CFO, you're not. Raise your level of ambition, throw something harder at it, right? And if it doesn't work, try a different model, try a different tool, try a different prompt. Come back to it tomorrow, try it again. And just keep persisting. And what we see as we measure this internally is I basically describe this as camp 1 and camp 2 of users. If you're in camp 1, you're still in this Q&A mode with an AI, right? And you're like, wow, this thing's amazing. I'm so impressed with this thing. And it's super cool. And I'm, asking a question. It's whoa, it could answer my question about what's the capital of Washington, and you're amazed at it. I'm being facetious for a reason, but, and then, but you're on a kind of I would say a linear path of learning, right? You're kind of on this type of slope. But the world and the technology it's jagged, but it is doing this. It's an exponential, right? And so you're kind of falling further and further away from the world of transformation here. So we have Camp 2, which are a set of people in the organization, engineers, et cetera, that are using this stuff all the time, and they're giving it really hard problems. Half the time or more, they're frustrated. They're this pile of junk, it didn't do what I wanted to do. Let me try a different model. Let me change my prompt. Let me give it more context. Let me fine tune the thing. Let me do this. Let me, and they bend this thing into doing what they need it to do, and then sometimes it still doesn't work. They come back a month from now, it works, right? Because the technology's gotten better. But that persistence and that frustration is they're tracking to this line. The people who are happy and delighted with it, they're tracking to this line, right? It's hard to be here, but I think more of us have to be here versus here.
Right. Asking harder questions, not being so enamored, right?
Yeah, and just like, hey, it created me a marketing plan. Okay, well, like, why didn't you give me, an entire competitive breakdown? Why didn't you do a pricing strategy of this thing? Why didn't you, create like what, if I launch this press release, tell me what my competitors are going to
Yeah.
launch the next day,
Right.
Keep going and going and going. Like,
Don't you have to know? I mean, back to even kids, and I think of how I use it, like where I get frustrated with it. Like I was amazed when it helped me fix the water heater because I don't know anything about water heaters.
now you do.
Right? I was like, amazing.
You can be a plumber too.
Yeah, right. But when I'm trying it to get it to do something that I know a lot about, whether it's in the world of education or, I'm like, I'm a cyclist, like having it fix my DI2 electronic shifting, I'm like, this is stupid. It will not work. It's dumb. That doesn't make any sense. You're wrong. Like, so, but I have a lot of background knowledge, right? And so.
And you can help it get that knowledge, by the way.
Right.
And then
But
it
like
can-
a kid who doesn't have that knowledge or a teacher,
Yeah.
I mean, then what? Right? Don't you need a certain amount of content knowledge still?
Maybe. I think part of it is like the way you interact with these AIs, right? Because you don't have to have the knowledge to have this thing help you. I think you just have to, one, know how to like ask the questions.
Ask questions.
And it's like in some ways, it's a series of questions, right? And you can have it, for example, one of the things that I'll do sometimes, and I learned this from watching other people, which is maybe I don't know about something, or I'm like, hey, I want to go and do this. I want to figure this out, or I want to build this thing. And a kid can do this, right? Hey, I want to go build a website. I don't know how to do this. Or like, I want to build this thing and this thing, or I want to like, I think I have an idea about how to solve this like chemistry problem, but I don't know how these types of chemical bonds work in this type of, element. You can be like, hey, I want to do this. I want to build this. I want to solve this problem. I want to learn this. But I don't know I don't know all of the answers or all the things to tell you AI. So why don't you think about this, do some research, think really hard. Don't ask me dumb questions, but then come back and interview me, right? And ask it to come back to you with these thinking and reasoning models. It'll come back and it'll ask you questions, right? And so then it'll ask you like, hey, do you want this or this? Do you want me to go research this for you? Do you want it? And another technique I use is like, hey, solve this problem, but solve it three entirely different ways for me. Give me three proposals or three whatever. And a kid can do this. We can teach the kids to do this too, right? And then the kids will be like, oh, option A, option B, option C. I don't like all of them. Try again. This thing's stupid. I'll try again tomorrow. Or, hey, I like A, a part of B. But put that together.
Right.
Do the next thing.
Yeah.
Right? So you don't have to have the knowledge.
You don't. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. Because the knowledge is there, it's available, but you're teaching them again about discernment or choice making or sort of they're like project managers or something, right?
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that become a
Yeah.
better?
I mean, again, my pithy way of looking at this is like an unassuming kind of like not self-directed intern, that can't manage their time. And so if you manage that thing as that, then it'll be amazing.
I think I was one of those 1991.
I think we all were.
I remember. Yeah, Egan.
I think we all were.
Yeah. So I got a book from Katie Morgan. Katie Morgan, I don't think she's here. She's our associate head of school, called Anointed. Have you seen this book? Written by Berkeley Business School professor. It's about status and how there's a system of status that operates sometimes in the shadows. A lot of us are not aware of it, and it causes us to do all kinds of things. And most of us aren't. The idea of like bootstraps. I did it all by myself. Like, no, not true. And he takes aim at Silicon Valley in the book quite a bit. But what was interesting, he was talking about education as well and AI. And I'm thinking about these families and us as a school, right? Most of our kids after 8th grade are applying to private schools in 9th grade. I was talking to Divya about this earlier. Or they're going off to college. And right now they have to write essays, and it's still pretty basic. With the new AI tools, this author posits that the information will be suppressed, that people will get good at asking the same prompt to produce the essay, which will then make the pedigree and the signal of the status even more important. Mm-hmm. It'll create even more pressure on parents to like, I got to get my kid into that school. What do you think about that? Is that a possible unintended consequence?
I haven't read the book,
Okay.
but it seems plausible the way you
I was
presented
convincing.
it. Yeah, you are convincing. Yeah, I think, to me, I think that's like very plausible. I mean, like, listen, you see this in everything we, read today. You can see things now that are mostly generated by AI, right? And you can pick up on that. And these things are getting better and better to not sound, like AI.
Because I think that's part of the issue. Like, even like a few months ago, it was like, I can really tell. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? The newest models are like, this is really
it's getting
good.
better and better. Yeah. I guess the question would be back to, like the question I have on that prompt is, then what is the process look like?
Yeah.
Right. If everybody can kind of submit the same, if college counseling is, hey, prompt engineering counseling, to the parents to write these essays, that's like, and everybody's doing the same thing from a prep perspective, then what is the way that schools will assess that talent?
Yeah.
Because,
it probably should change, right?
I think so, and I think we're actually, all organizations are changing. Like we have to, and I'm sure you all, if you're, in the interviewing candidates, we're having to change our way that we recruit top talent, right? And the old ways of assessing folks is like morphing, it's changing. We don't know exactly what the right answer is, but we are running a bunch of different experiments. So, because again, you can use AI in ways that kind of mask or maybe make it hard for you to know if it's like the right person for your team or not.
Right. I mean, I know even at Synapse, right, a lot of parents are here that are applying into Synapse. It's a pretty thorough process, a lot of in-person, right? We're doing it in person because we were highly relational. It's an elementary school, it's different. If a kindergartner comes in with an essay, check out, it's like, don't do that, parents. Like, that is absolutely a surefire way I'm thinking more of the kids on the out or even like in the, my daughter a couple years ago was applying to colleges, and I was actually a mentor at the Boys and Girls Club for kids applying to college, so I was helping with the applications into the Cal State systems. It's just 3 or 4 prompts of 250 words and your transcript. Like, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. So if they all become the same, how I don't know. You don't have an answer, but I do wonder about that.
Yeah, I think the process is going to have to change. Now the question is, does it change fast enough? Right? And I believe these things are eventually consistent, but there may be years where it is messy.
Yeah, right. That's that time we're probably in or entering in.
Yeah. I mean, if you're somebody on the admissions, group in that, and you have to read 5,003 essay, 250 word things that 75% of them all read and sound the same. At some point you're like, I can't do my job. Right. So at that point, does it then just result into like digress into just the transcript or this? But they're going to have to, I feel like that. Yeah. I want to believe that we're going to, find a way to change.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, now reflecting on it, it's also there was some of that was already happening with like tutors or whatever.
Tutors, the internet, you can search and find this stuff, and
Do you remember our reports early on? They had the sort of running person that went along. Yeah, and one of the reasons I did that, I got a lot of heat for that because they're like, "What is this? The running person?" And it was how far along you are as a student. I knew they would stand out at the admissions offices, right? Because they're all kind of the same, and they were like, "What is this?
What is this
thing?
running?
Why is there a person running across the paper?" Oh, that's Synapse.
That's Jim.
We no longer do that. Sarah Hill is here. She probably was part of this conversation. I was so disappointed that we went to Blackbaud, a system like everyone else uses. All right, here's another question about kids. I'm thinking of like graduates. In your opinion, if a school system, whether it's a public school system or private school, if they get it right, what should a graduate look like at age 18 in mindset? Again, you kind of touched on this earlier, right? Curiosity.
I did, and I think, my opinion, that I actually like this concept, and I read and I'm just generally curious about this topic, but and we talk about it. We've talked about it, which is this concept of like systems thinking, like the systems thinker, right? And I think it's coming more into the vernacular. 5 years ago, it wasn't something that most people kind of talked about, think about. But I do think like the 18-year-old. If you think about being able to connect these dots, you think about the world changing really fast. You think about the technology, AI, being more and more capable, and you think about just like the level of maybe human ambition raising, right? You think about, hey, there's these biology problems or these chemistry problems or these problems that have just been super unapproachable, super hard in the past, but now we actually can go tackle these things. And so, but in some ways, like being able to connect the dots between these different systems, whether it be chemistry and finance or this political thing and, the ocean, and like there's all these things that are gonna be more interconnected, because if we want to hit these next levels of like ambition and creativity and problem solving in the world, they're not like isolated things. There are a few things out there, but if we want to change like how this world is going to be energized, if we want to be an interplanetary species, like these are all things that are like massively
There's a sci-fi
systems. No, I don't. I mean, listen, I'm not that sci-fi. I mean, there are people who are trying to do this.
Well, I know. Yeah. Yes, I know some of them.
So I don't think it's that sci-fi, but I do think that these are all like big, complex systems problems. So having that training, having that orientation, you can have passions in particular areas and be deep on those things. Biology or chemistry. Like I think you gotta have like the ability to take problems and break them down, right? Whether that be math. Do you think this
speeds it up then? I mean, because I'm thinking, I was just in the 5-6 science room. Jessica is our teacher, and I noticed she had a book about how around nature, biomimicry. I think it's what it was about, right? Where like, I think the Wright brothers looked at birds and saw, it was like, like led to flight. And I think about this stuff all the time in the context of sports and cycling. Like there's a lot of biomimicry that goes into it, but it seems slow, right? Is this gonna speed those types of connections between different things? Is it gonna speed it up?
I think that's the opportunity, right? I think that's the creativity, that's the staying curious, that's the more systems thinkers in the world, and that being recognized. And organizations, when they graduate, they go to college, they do internships, they get jobs. Organizations are also rewiring themselves, right? The way that we all grew up, our parents, us, where we work. If you're in a small company, a big company, there's departments, there's layers, there's titles, there's hyper specialization in a company, right? And there's a lot of collaboration, some companies better than others. I think what I think is going to happen is a collapse of the function, right? I think a lot of the different functions that are in an organization are going to collapse. And I think like organizations that are out there today, the big enterprises, they're going to have to remake themselves in terms of like these functions, these departments.
Certain departments are going to disappear.
You said that.
I mean, I'm thinking of it even in school. I really am. I'm like, oh, do I really need X? I mean, teachers for sure, for us, but there's certain areas I'm like, huh.
Yeah, I think the opportunity is to remake these functions, right? Some may disappear.
Yeah.
But I don't think that a modern organization, at least when I think about, hey, if I were to build an organization at scale, I would not, like with knowing that where the technology is today, where it might be in a year or 2 or 3, I like think differently about it, right?
Yeah,
In terms
right.
of like, would you do it this way and this way and this way? If the world is like moving 10 times faster, is the organization that the organizational design that we're used to, accustomed to, that we grew up with, is that the thing that keeps up with the world? Is that the thing that is that's not a competitive advantage, right, anymore?
Right.
So this collapse or merge or blurring of the function, I think, is a real thing, right? And that's happening faster than, the ones that aren't doing it, we'll see where they end up. But for our kids growing up, doing internships, getting jobs, that organization they join is likely to look very different than like we see it today, right?
Right.
So that systems thinking, that curiosity, being able to go and blend different functions, I think that's going to be more valued in that organization than the, I'm in X department and I do Y job, or I'm in B department and I do, C job, right? And here's my walk up the corporate ladder type of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think that mindset, I think that's a dangerous mindset.
I think it's a dangerous mindset today, and I think it'll be like more dangerous.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I've talked to my nephews about that because they're in jobs in the Midwest. They're like, oh, if I stay here, I could do this, and I'm like, no, don't think that way, And they're college educated, went to really, but they have that. It's different mindset in different places. Yeah. So from a leadership perspective, you are that person, a leader. What kind of judgment do you want humans to retain? And again, we've touched a bit upon this, increasingly more capable in certain areas of judgment. And then how do we intentionally cultivate that, in a school or in a family?
I think there's going to be that judgment, that common sense, that just being more grounded. I think the other thing that's interesting is most of us as humans, we don't like change. We're like genetically wired against change, right? And I think the leadership challenge, the educator challenge is the world is changing faster, right? You wake up every day, you're like, well, what happened? I thought this was like the thing yesterday, and now this other thing is the thing today, right? What does it mean for me as a parent, for a teacher, for a kid?
Like, do you see like this past weekend's news cycle? That was like 10 years of my childhood. Countries, what's happening? It was like 72 hours.
72 hours, right?
It was like destabilizing, right?
So I think that, I talk about it this way, which is like that adaptability.
Yeah.
Right. And I think this is we have to, and I don't have like to me, it's just like, how do we all get ready, our families, our kids, us, to adapt faster? And I don't have like, a magic wand to that, but being ready to adapt faster.
Would you say, do you start making that explicit as a mom or dad? Would you say earlier? Like,
I don't know that, to me, maybe high school feels like that
Okay.
might be appropriate to have this,
Yeah.
because then they see a much more complex world, right? Our high schoolers, our teenagers understand tech and their academics. They understand social dynamics, friends. They understand politics, religion, all these other things. They have their passions. They have like they're people, like with like real budding personalities, right?
Right.
Not saying that the younger kids don't, but this is one of those where like that they feel that maybe rate of change more,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
They're busier, right?
Yes.
So to me, that's maybe the time, maybe,
Yeah, maybe.
to throw it out
Yeah.
there.
I mean, you.
Maybe late middle school.
Right. Yeah. You have a kid in late middle school and a daughter in high school. And
Yeah,
there was a
I'm not projecting at all.
Right. Exactly. But we do have a question here, and your kids are awesome. If there are teachers in the audience, they know this to be true. I don't know how they got that way with you as a dad. How are you?
Because of her,
I'm not going to
yeah.
call out mom. She's
Yeah,
awesome too.
she is.
How are you guiding your own kids, Isla and Tejas, their use of AI at home? Are there things you're doing as a parent?
Yeah, I mean, I think we, I don't know. I think like my wife's the pro at this. I think we just embrace this stuff, right? I think for us, it's really, we're figuring it out together. We're very open with them. We encourage them to like use this stuff to find like where it helps them, where it doesn't. Talk about it with them, because in some ways it's like, hey, this is the world they're entering, right? It's like devices are everywhere, AI is everywhere, the world's changing. There's so it's like, okay, well, why not like live with them and as soon as they're ready. And like sometimes we don't know the answer, sometimes they ask us the questions. There's like basic things, right, which is depending on the kid how they learn, asking AI to help them make sure they understood a concept in homework, practice more problems, hey, I don't quite understand this, teach it to me a different way because I learned this way, right? Use it to help me double check something, help me, those are all things that I probably obvious to most of us in terms of how we use AI, so nothing, remarkable there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's more of just this like, hey, it's just part of like the world, and like we should all just embrace it and figure it out together, right? So, whether it be coding, whether it be studying, whether it be researching something going on in the world and trying to understand this. And frankly, there's a lot of things that they're interested in that neither, she or I have any clue of. So having the internet, having AI to help them explore and access this information, to me, I think that's like a fascinating, like a gift that our kids have access to compared to what we had.
Right.
What's
one thing that, thinking of your own children, that gives you sort of the most pause, right, or caution, like, whoa, is there one thing about AI that you think, is it discerning information, deep fakes, is it?
I don't, listen, I'm probably, I'm more of an optimist on these things, okay. Right? I think generally there are risks, there are dangers, some of them which we know today, many of them are emerging every day, and we see them, we'll see more of them. Let's just be balanced, that and there will be lots of people out there fighting the good fight, and I generally think more about the types of things that we're actually going to be able to do to improve like humankind, that we couldn't do when we were growing up, when we were going to school. So I think about I'm more excited about the opportunities that our kids are going to realize.
So, like, that was the second half of the question. Like,
what
what's
they're
something
going
that's
to
hopeful?
do, in the world.
Yeah.
From like changing the world, a change maker perspective.
Yeah.
I think I'm more excited about that than I am worried. But I am worried.
Yeah. I mean, it's emerging. Is there something that is specifically exciting for you? Or, I mean, or is it too early for your kids? Is there something?
No, I think, projecting from our kids, right, which is one, is like all of the, I just think there's a lot of crazy cool things that are going to have happen with like embodied AI, right? And, formerly known as robotics. But I think like what, things are manual, laborious, tired today, or things that, we can achieve now with these more intelligent, like physical, mechanical, like robots, right? That can sense, that can reason, that can do more like complex things in the world, right? And I think about just like we have these AIs to help us learn or help us check something or help us like understand a topic that we don't know. Now, like if you had something physical for part of your job or, maybe as a sports player, like I need somebody to scrimmage with, or to like practice shooting goals in soccer against. But I normally have to find a person to do that. And now I can just have a robot that I can have in my backyard and I can practice all day, all night against somebody who's like better than me and as a goalkeeper, right?
Never gets tired.
I mean, you probably have to plug it in, so maybe you need two, right? Or have a long extension cord, I don't know. So anyway, I think that the ability to like achieve more, to create more, to solve like harder problems in the world is the thing that, whether it be and these are the hard sciences, right? For me, I'm more intrigued in the hard sciences, biology, chemistry, like mechanical systems, physics, like these are the things I'm like more energy, these are the things that I'm more excited that.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I mean, my daughter's in university and she's studying animal sciences. She's at Cornell and she works in a lab and they are looking at forest elephants in the Congo and the sounds they make that we can't hear.
Yeah.
And with AI, they're accelerating what they're understanding and they're finding out like those sounds are actually instrumental in the health of that rainforest. And like and like she's learning this program that no one knows. I'm like, what are you doing? And it's like they're saving a rainforest at like an incredible speed, and they can't. And like, what's also interesting about the technology, because I'm like, are you going to go to the Congo? And she's like, Dad, there's like civil war, idiot. Like, there's like no, but they can still do the work, right?
Because but the crazy thing about what she's doing in college, like you could do here at Synapse, like you could take a mini version of that and do that like next week, right? Yeah, and it's not that unapproachable anymore, right? And the thing that the rate of learning, you think about how that study would have happened pre-AI, is very linear, right? In terms of like how many experiments you could run or how many things you could process. And now you could take 10,000 samples or, and you could process them all in a day, whereas you may had to do that linearly and it would have taken you a year. And now you can do that. So that I talked about kind of the collapse of the function, that compression of the function in the organization. There's a compression of time of processing of that information. So understanding, these elephant sounds that are part of the health of the rainforest, like if you can now do that, in a week versus a 5-year study and have a positive impact to like help that environment, because now you're getting that assistant from these computers, right? From GPUs.
Right. The speed. I mean, or just in the year that she's been doing it, it's like incredible. Like
I mean, we talk about this funny. There's a guy that I work with. It's like a funny kind of thing he says. It's, he's like, it's all inspiration, less perspiration now, right? And he's an engineer, software engineer. And he's like, listen, I don't have to like, waste all my calories typing out lines of code. I just have inspiration. And he's like amazing with these AI tools. And he's like, I get to focus my time on my inspiration, my creativity, not the, typing in lines of characters. And then I have to verify the output, right? The other funny thing, or not funny thing I should say, is a lot of the unlock of the AI to like process those sounds or to understand the solar system or understand DNA or something in like, ocean science, comes down to writing software to like tie in the real world data tools, images and stuff like that into the AI, right? So the only way that we're going to get the knowledge out of these AI systems, these models, is by writing more software, right? And I've said this publicly where, Microsoft's been around for 50 years, and if you add up all the software that has been written in the last 50 years in the world, I posit that it's 1% or less of the software that will be written in the world in the next 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I think that we are going to see this just amazing explosion
from both human.
Trying to unlock all of this creativity, knowledge.
But is that software also going to be written by agents?
Some of it will be,
Okay.
yeah. Or most of it will be. Sorry, most of it's written by agents. Yeah. Directed by input. So by humans. So in some ways, code has always been the input into the systems. We've all been learning how to code. But in some ways now, it's changing, and intent is the input. That inspiration is the input, and code is just an output, right?
And then making sense of the output.
And validating, verifying the output.
Got it. Yeah. Again, almost I don't know why I'm thinking like a chef, right? Who's got an idea for a dish, the master chef at some restaurant. And then people get to work on and then they try it, and they're like, get back in there, more butter or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
That fixes
Is this something like that?
Yeah.
So it's
yes.
leadership becomes important.
Yes, but it's interesting. We're kind of maybe geeking out here. It's you have the intent, you specify it, it goes off and does something, it generates code, you then verify it. What I see folks mistakenly do is when they detect a problem, they go in and they go and try to fix the code themselves. And that's the wrong loop, right? What you want to do as a parent, as you're teaching your kids, if you're learning this stuff for the first time, in some ways, if you don't know how to code, you're at an advantage. Because you only know how to talk to the AI, and you only know how to assess whether it did the thing you wanted to do, and did it look and feel the way you wanted it to look. And if you didn't, you can yell at it, and you don't have to understand the code. And the people who do understand the code want to go and fix the code, but that's actually the mistake, right? The mistake is don't look at the code. You should understand the code, you should look at the code. But go back and fix it by changing the English, the narrative up front.
And why is that important now?
Because then the whole loop goes faster, right? If you go in there and you mess with the code yourself, then the next time you go back and change your intent, the model you screw it up, and you're not learning how to use the agent to get the outcome.
Gotcha.
You're micromanaging it.
Got it. Just like the intern.
Just like the intern.
Yeah, move over, Ian.
Let me get in there. Let me fix your bug, right?
Yeah.
Versus give it feedback. Try something
feedback.
else. And interns, you have to learn how to give them feedback. They're all different, right? In terms of how you coach them, right?
How you coach them. Awesome. All right, let's take a few questions from the audience.
I'm curious, it occurs to me as you're speaking about this, you're sort of taking the fact that it's better as a positive, which obviously is exciting, but do you understand the response of, wow, this thing is so great, I'm now demotivated to actually try to compete? Or, you know where I'm going with that?
Say more.
In order to do, so let's say there's a researcher that spent those 5 years doing that study and now they can do it in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, why am I wasting my time, right? Maybe I should just wait another 6 months and then, something else will do it for me.
Yeah.
Right?
That's interesting.
Absolutely. I think I hinted around this answer, but I'll be more explicit, which is that's that adaptability point that I was trying to, and I can't see who you are and if you're shaking your head yes or no, or cursing silently my name, I don't know. The thing that I would just say is it is that adaptability, and I think in some ways expecting that these things are going to just get time compressed versus being surprised that they're time compressed is that adaptability point, right? And I think just expecting that, hey, my PhD dissertation that I spent 6 years doing now just got implemented in an hour by somebody that it took me 2 years to do, right? I mean, I don't think this is new though, right? I think
No.
this is just like the advancement of like humans. But I do think whatever work you're doing now, I do think one, it is real that people are going to be, I would think disappointed or be like dejected, you know? And I think that's part of this adaptability, which is like, okay, cool. Like, you know, that thing I toiled through took forever, but now there's a better way to do it. And now I have like, other ideas from my research that I thought were going to take another, you know, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years. And now I can do that in, you know, 5 days or a month.
Yeah, you get time back, right? I mean,
And that's what we talk about, right? To me, is like time is our most precious resource, right? And if we can get time back by learning how to adapt and use these things, then in the fullness of time, again, I think that's like good.
yeah, I mean, I know in my little world, even how I use it for, you know, in the finance space or presentation, like I now have so much more time to go play volleyball with the 7th grade girls at recess, right? I mean, I even a teacher's like, well, I see you around a lot more.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. You know, I didn't say,
Yeah.
you know, it's because I'm using the tools to do some of the
Yeah.
mundane tasks.
I think that's the mundane part of it. And I think his question is much more of like,
Yeah.
these are like passions of mine. I went to school.
That's
I worked hard. I, you know, put time, money, and sweat into solving these things. And something came along and, you know, did this, you know,
Yeah.
overnight. I think that would be true of things that maybe our parents, you know, did, and computers came along, right, or the internet came along. I think things are going much faster, and I think many more things are disrupted. But I think it is very, there's both sides of those, right? There's the opportunity, the excitement, and then the like, am I relevant? And I think we have to balance both. Both are
Or what
hard.
does it mean to be even doing the thing, right? I think of art. I was up in the city this weekend, and there was an artist at the MoMA. I forget his name, Latino, but he was saying like, the idea of art is evolving, and he's a photographer, but he's like, he's using a lot of AI,
Yeah.
and you could see it's kind of. I was with a friend. It was kind of controversial, right? Because she was like, "What this is?
That's not art."
That's not art."
Yeah.
I went to whatever
Yeah.
art school,
Yeah.
but he was
Yeah,
like, "No,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it is actually right."
Yeah.
So the definitions.
The definition of everything, of those things are changing.
Yeah. Good question, Sarah. If you're
All
out
right,
there.
I'm coming around over here.
Coming up front.
Okay.
Somebody's going to get picked on up front.
Thank you. So, thanks so much, Jay, for sharing a lot of your thoughts. One of the question I have as a parent, I feel there's an increased amount of pressure for me to think about when I can start to offer my kid have access to a powerful tool like AI. Like for example, like use calculator as example, right? Like that's kind of an easy thing, right? Like you have to start to learn about 1 + 1, 3 × 3 before you are ready to use the calculator. Like this is too early for you before you have a concept about what math is, right? But for AI, it's going so fast, and we're talking about there are advantages for them to know earlier, right? Because it's a very important tool, but also at the same time, it comes with the side effect that we just don't fully understand
Yes.
and aware yet. So as parent, how we should think about like making decisions like this? This is kind of a special time, like I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully only that we need to worry about that.
Yeah. So to be clear, I don't give advice, and especially not parental advice. I think it depends on sort of your philosophies, your values as a parent, and what's important to you as a family. So I think there's a lot of you own it, and you have to make these calls. We're all figuring it out together, right? So number one is that's what this community is great at, right? And your coffees and other things that people can come to,
Right.
talking about how people are doing this, and we're all running a lot of different experiments together, right? If we can learn from each other about these things, how it's working, how it's not working, I think that's like super important to build that community, neighbors, family, this community. If you're part of it, those are things I would say job number one. Job number two is know your kid, right? Because some kids I think are very sensible and can have full access to these things earlier because they know how to use these things for the specific things. Like, hey, I need to help you. I need you to quiz me on my algebra homework to really make sure I learn this properly. Or, hey, I don't understand this thing about Benjamin Franklin. Can you teach me more about, Benjamin Franklin? And they're there as a tutor, and it's like augmenting and helping them in a quick, reliable way. But they also kind of are a little bit skeptical about it. They have good common sense, right? But then there's the other things that we haven't talked about, and I'm no expert in this, but there's all these other dangers of what any human being, but little human beings can be harmed by these AIs, right? And the interactions, the bonds, the relationships they may be thinking they're having with these AIs as they become more and more life, real life. And I think these are really hard to navigate things, right? So maybe it's kind of build that community, really know and observe, and watch how your kids are using these things, right? Just like social media, just like TV, just like any kind of medium, right? I think there's some nurturing curation of that experience.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I'm no AI expert. I'm thinking just in general. I have a 24-year-old and a 20-year-old, and there's things there's no way would I let my son do certain things that I was like to my daughter, like, hey, can you go do that thing?
Yeah.
It's fine, right? It was just no way, right? She was in 7th grade and he was whatever in 10th grade, and I'd come to an event over here and I'd be like, Sarah, can you make sure he does his homework, and can you make him dinner? You need to go home. Oh, you can get on the internet. That's, so I think it's probably similar. If your kid, you have to know your kid. I think it's critical. And then there's, like you said, family values, right? That's a big one. And then rely on I agree totally. Relying on your communities, whatever those communities may be.
Yeah, and I think what we try to do is just speak openly about kind of all sides of these things, right? I think to her credit, I think very open. It's hey, they're entering a world where all of this stuff is happening, right? So we can try to curate this, and I wouldn't say protect, but we can try to manage it, right? But then they get out there and they're in college, or they go to boarding school, or they go away to college, and it's the whole world's on fire at that point.
That's rough.
So
but finding the communities to
you got to
match
find
your
that
values
balance,
too,
right? But finding that balance to make sure they're ready for this thing being, kind of wide open,
right?
And what society they're entering in the job and college, knowing that there's other college kids or coworkers that are going to be way more using this stuff in crazy ways. And are you them? Are you I don't know what to do with this, So trying to, I think, and I think your point is right. I think it's this weird kind of transition time where there isn't any good sound structure guidelines to know how to do this.
Right. But we're talking about it here all the time in our SEL curriculum, right? We're trying to get kids by the time they're leaving to be able to make choices based on their values that help them to be positive change makers, right? It sounds abstract, but that's key. Right?
Yeah, but that's irrespective of AI. That's just a macro
right. But when
thing
then
that
you
applies.
throw right, and
but
I don't.
It captures AI.
Yeah,
right? That's
we hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So
I
far,
think it does.
Yeah. How about one more question?
Sorry, I really like when you focus on curiosity. But then 60%, 70% of the time, you guys are talking about efficiency. This is two sides of the story, right? Most of the time. So I want to bring that up because in the last 2 weeks, I brought my kid to drive to San Diego. If just for efficiency, we throw a simple question, how long we gonna drive, right? How many stops for Ferrari or for Tesla, right? Very easy. Efficiency. But then our old school mapping, navigating, all those skills are gone, right? Our brain is not evolving. My boy and me, actually, we spent an hour talking about, with AI, can we swim to San Diego? Can we rowing a boat, right? Can we sailing, or can we do something? I guess that's different ways to use AI, but how are we gonna cope with that? Because everybody is seeking for efficiency, almost. We tend to not changing. Why?
And you
Because
mean efficiency, you mean like saving
time,
saving time.
bandwidth,
Yeah.
right? It's brain. We don't want to waste energy of the brain power. That's exactly why AI brought up, why it raised up.
Yeah.
So it's very contradictory. But then when we're talking about, most of you guys are talking about efficiency, how to bring that forest in front of us, efficiency.
Maybe let me, I'm not sure I'm going to, I don't know how exactly, I'm not sure I'm going to answer your question, but I'm going to take a crack at it. So this is one person's on stage's opinion. The way I think about it is, again, maybe less about knowing kind of what's right for our kids and parents, but I think about, hey, all of us, what is that most precious resource? It is time. And if I can get time back, and if our kids can get time back with things that are time inefficient, like mundane,
Right.
to then have time to go and like create more, think harder, do harder things,
Exactly.
then I don't think they're contradictory. I think they're complementary.
I hope. But then most of the people, right, today we're asking about question, how long, how many hours for me to drive from San Francisco all the way to San Diego?
Yeah.
That's how we use it. And I don't like the term when you say they're interns, they're not. They're big weapons, right? They're heavy weapons. Right now, maybe my kid is, staying at home and asking AI what will be the most secret place to hide the candies, for mom to not to find it out, right? Because they're smart, they're using it as the most efficient tool. But then as an educator, as a system, how are we gonna cope with that? Because actually we're talking about values here. It's our brain to evolve, it's not AI evolving, but we're always focused on AI evolving. That's not right.
Yeah, I think it comes back to, some part of this is the values that you ascribe to, that the community, the school, ascribes to, and
Yeah, I think that's right.
Like the values you have as a parent and as a family, right?
Right.
So if
And your son may be, sorry to interrupt, but like you can find other ways to hide the candy.
yeah, I don't
Right,
need
it
to
might
ask
be-
AI for that. Our kids don't ask AI for that.
Maybe it's more efficient, right? Yeah.
It's like, Mom won't look here. I don't
Like
need
ask
to
the
ask
brother,
AI for
ask
that.
the friends. Yeah, I don't.
It-
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I think
Yeah.
I do think it's values. You go ahead, because I cut you off.
No, I think it's like values. And then listen, that's why I tried to cover both sides of this, right? In terms of, and my reference to using it as an intern was to, this is how, for those of us that are not technical and may be intimidated by using this stuff, but we know we have to learn how to use it. This is something that I've learned from talking to lots of people of how to approach the technology and to start to get some familiarity with it, right? Versus being like, oh, I don't know how to use it, I'm scared of it, right? It was like, okay, you can not know how to use it and be scared of it, or you can not know how to use it and My personal experience is like, hey, and listen, it's maybe a trite or kind of over like simplistic kind of representation of but these things are really capable, right? So it's not like you're talking to some silly text file or something like that, chatbot anymore. But again, that's why I was talking about some of the bad stuff that's out there, right? Because we have to balance these things in society. There's a lot of unknown unknowns at this point, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it just comes down to values and caring and community.
Right. And I think that starts really early with, obviously with parents and family, but like also the schools or the environments you're choosing to put your kids. I mean, I really believe that maybe is more important than ever. I mean, it's probably always kind of important, but I think that and again, it depends on the family, right? What your values are and how they line up with the communities and organizations that you choose to be a part of. I think that's going to really matter as we raise kids. All right, Jay, you're off the hook. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. And thanks everybody for coming out today. I really appreciate it. And get home safe. Thanks again.